here we are. I'm living and breathing and sleeping and dreaming and waking up and thinking about SAJ at 100 years, Judaism that stands for all. So here's just some images for us to think about. We have our beautiful building and its historic significance as the Society for the Advancement of Judaism. We have a celebration of our incredible Tish program, this Hugh Barron book that was created. We have our activism work that we're going to be celebrating and growing through this process. We have good old Mordecai Kaplan, our dear Rebbe, who actually is behind me as well in our whatever the bronze statue. We have the Hava Nagila location, and we have our new brand of SAJ, Judaism that stands for all. We have so much to celebrate. It's going to be absolutely incredible. And I want to start by just reminding ourselves or grounding ourselves. And I apologize for these pop-ups. I'm never great with this, my slides, as the people in my adult B'nai Mitzvah class know I'm so clumsy with the slides. But that 2 years ago, or God, was it even 3 years ago? It's so hard. The pandemic has sucked all sense of time out of me, but that we have, we went through a very intentional process to sort of articulate who we are, that meshes and brings together our sense of inclusion and social justice, along with our history of intellectual inquiry. And we have our wonderful sort of statement of who we are. SAJ, Judaism stands for all. SAJ is a joyous community of New Yorkers, a Jewish home where everyone's voice is valued and heard. Imagine a school kids run towards and a synagogue where all can come together for social justice, study, and Shabbat. Ever since SAJ introduced America's first bat mitzvah in 1922, it has been reconstructing Judaism, questioning tradition, and expanding its boundaries to ensure that Torah remains relevant, engaging, and welcoming to all. Such a powerful statement that I think is going to be really lifted up, hopefully through this process of SAJ's 100th anniversary. And so in that statement, we had ever since 1922, and here we are, and it is 2022 in just a few months. And this is an opportunity for us to not just think like every other synagogue who has 100th anniversary, which is not even that many synagogues. Just the very fact that we have a 100th anniversary is in of itself a big deal, to be an institution that can keep iterating and changing and adapting to be alive and well and healthy today is in of itself a celebration. And beyond that, we have so much history to celebrate. We are such an incredible institution with such tremendous history. We are the birthplace of Reconstructionist Judaism. This is where the idea of synagogues being also Jewish centers and Judaism being about Jewish centers and not just about prayer came into being. This is the beginning of the demand that ethics and Judaism are intertwined. When Kaplan said, we cannot retain the idea of chosenness because it's not an ethical concept anymore, he was asserting the idea that ethics and contemporary ethics and our tradition have to be aligned. The origin of Judaism without supernaturalism, the concept that there can be an understanding of God that is not necessarily a supernatural deity sweeping into the world, even though it's okay. It's also inclusive of if you have that belief as well, but that concept was so radical at the time, which is now sort of taken for granted. Home of the first bat mitzvah, this idea that Kaplan saw the changes going on in society and how women were getting the vote and becoming more empowered and wanted SAJ to be on the forefront of that. They weren't actually quite fully ready yet. They let him and his family, and a few decades later, the whole rest of the congregation, but he kept trying and pushing. We are the origin of the Devar Torah open microphone, thanks to Rabbi Alan Miller, who wonderfully brought that into our community, and the home of Hava Nagila, among many other wonderful pieces of music. There is more, there's always more, but that is one list to think about. Now, fast forward to today, and Janet spoke about this so beautifully, but here we are. I want to share things that I've heard from people. I've heard from new members. I've heard from people who joined recently. I've heard from other folks, as well as my own beliefs. SAJ is a living, breathing center for Jewish life and civilization. We are not only focused on prayer, we do so much, and we value those things equally. We are a Shabbat-centered model. SAJ is like there are very few congregations that can truly say this. You know, our Hebrew school, our Jewish life, our spiritual life, everything is centered around Shabbat. Our SAJ provides members with a sense of belonging and a real deep sense. People at all levels or no levels of involvement feel equally valued, which is an unusual thing in synagogue life, very unusual. Intergenerational relationships flourish that are not often possible in our secular society. We value our particular tradition, but we also understand that that leads us to universal values. SAJ helps us become a more human individually and more humane. The Torah we teach is relevant to our lives and the ethics of today. We are on the vanguard of egalitarian, inclusive, and affirming Jewish practice, including the way we've so seamlessly integrated gender diversity in our mitzvahs, as well as many other examples, and a strong, strong emphasis on intellectual inquiry and curiosity. Now, I know that many congregations can say they have these things, but I think we are one of the few that can say we have it all. So we have a few distinct goals for the 100th anniversary of SAJ. And I think that they connect with everything I've just said so far. The first goal is quite plain and simply the obvious: to celebrate SAJ's history and its communal life, its unique contributions to individuals, groups, to New York City, and Judaism as a whole. Okay, so maybe that whole thing is not entirely obvious, definitely to ourselves, but we have to think about SAJ in terms of the landscape of New York and Judaism and how it has evolved and how it has contributed, and really mark those things. And we want to mark those things, and we want to mark the way, the 100th, in ways that also support our growth in the areas that we've identified as priorities for our own congregation, building our community. So how can we celebrate the 100th in ways where we build stronger ties to one another? Talmud Torah to learning. How can we support and celebrate the 100th so that we become more enriched through that experience intellectually, right? And in our own learning. Tzedek, justice. How can we continue to reach out as a congregation to become a home for justice in what we do on a daily basis and the way that we invest and think about and dream about our community and its contributions to the future? Arts and culture. I think we're going to have a ton of opportunities to celebrate arts and culture at SAJ, and it's going to be wonderful. And spirituality as well. How can we continue to sort of give people many different roads in and paths in, like the way we did with Musar and Midot, as well as meditation, as well as prayer, and learning itself, and activism itself, I would also say, is also spiritual practice. All can be seen as spiritual practices. So that is goal number 1. Goal number 2 is to utilize SAJ's 100th anniversary to help us further live our values and grow into being a Judaism that stands for all, as I mentioned the articulation of that earlier. And in that context, we want to amplify SAJ's placement in the larger Jewish community and bring awareness of who we are and why, double what and why, and what we do as a congregation and why it has meaning and relevance for why what we do has relevance and meaning for others. So put simply, we want to get the word out even more than we have. We want people to know, but we want people to know not just because, right? Not just because it's good for people to know about SAJ, but because we truly believe that we have something unique to offer, and that if more people knew about us, they would want to take advantage of a place that so seamlessly integrates intellectualism, spirituality, and activism. I mean, seriously, this is an incredible community, and we want people to know about it. It's very hard being on the Upper West Side and being in a location with so many other synagogues that are quite well known and famous, and we're smaller, we're small, we're just, don't have the same budgets as those other congregations. And at the same time, we keep hearing those stories of people who searched and searched and searched at those other congregations and ended up at SAJ. And I wish that they had heard about it in their first iteration, right? They didn't have to keep going, searching around the city until they found us. So we want more people to know about us because we believe we have something special and significant going on, and something that will impact people's lives. The third goal, you knew I had to say this, is that this is a big milestone opportunity. And it would be remiss of us for us to not consider how we can build our resources so that we can support our goals to being a Judaism that stands for all and a center for Jewish life. supporting our desire to make a significant impact on our members and our friends, the people who join us, not just on, as members, our city and the Jewish community writ large. And when I say resources, I want to say that we're talking about, we want to really invest in leadership development. Part of the 100th is making sure that we bring in new leaders to be involved in planning and executing the 100th so that we have investment in the future of our community. And we're also talking about, of course, financial resources, not just to necessarily pay our budget, but to really help us think about what are the things that we could do had we opportunity to plant some seeds of new creative ideas that will benefit our community and could benefit those beyond our community as well. So I think, so as Donna Katzen, one of our co-chairs, articulated it well. In essence, we are focusing on the past, the future, and how we get there. The past, celebration of who we are. The future, celebration of who we are now and who we are becoming, and the resources and the ability to, and all that it takes for us to get there. So from now, I'm going to pass it on to, I don't know if you want that slide yet. You tell me when. I'm passing it back to Janet. Janet, you have to unmute.
Okay, yeah, I want the slide.
Great.
So first, a little vocabulary. We're not talking about committees anymore. What we're talking about is a task force, the 100th anniversary task force. And that broad overall group is made up of different teams. The difference between a committee and a team is focused for a certain period of time on something, whereas committees can go on infinitely. So for our task force, we have two co-chairs, and the co-chairs of the overall task force, as you see there, Adana Katzen-Altschuler and Abe Klott. And they'll work with the steering committee that's made up of the team chairs and co-chairs, the rabbi, and with me. They'll be liaison to the team chairs and co-chairs. Just to tell you a little bit about them, Donna Katzen is a long-term member with an extended family members who are also long-term members of SAJ. She's a former board member and vice chair, both in her professional life and congregational work. She's focused on social justice initiatives. Abe Klott is also a long-term member, chair of or participant in just about every SAJ committee at some point in his life at SAJ. He's a former chair of the congregation, and I think the person who spent the most years as chair of SAJ of any of the chairs. The fundraising committee, the chair is Michael Vermouth, and the co-chair of special gifts is Larry Budish. Michael Vermouth is an accountant who's an SAJ board member and a member of the finance committee. Larry Budish is a long-term member, former chair of the congregation. He's been treasurer for several years now, and on the exec committee. He's chair of the finance committee, and under his leadership as chair of the last capital campaign that we did, SAJ raised close to $2 million. So thank you, Larry. The communications team, the purpose of the communications team is to advance SAJ's placement in New York City and beyond, to create a cohesive narrative for the 100th anniversary, and to support the work of the individual teams. The co-chairs are Dan Held and Aaron Feynman. Dan has a teenage daughter who had her bar mitzvah here and a son in Macomb. Dan is the Assistant Vice President of Strategic Communications for Columbia University. Aaron is the father of 2 Macomb students. He's a board member. He was very actively involved in our rebranding process. He's a digital communications and marketing communications professional with particular expertise in multimedia planning, development, and production. I almost understand what that means. And our events and initiatives team is designed to celebrate SAJ's history and the members in ways that support community, learning, justice, culture, and spirituality. They'll work with the communications team on specific events and initiatives to broaden SAJ's presence on a local and national level. The co-chairs are Allison Spitz and Nancy Ludmer. Allison Spitz is a previous Hebrew School co-chair, membership chair, vice chair, and chair of the SAJ. Nancy Ludmer is a long-term member who is a board member and was vice chair. She led the book group for many years and also graces us with many a brilliant Tish and Devar presentation and with her beautiful laning. The events and initiatives is obviously the largest team, and that team in particular, but also some of the others will divide into some sub-teams. Please contact me if you're interested in volunteering to do small tasks. Contact Abe and Donna if you have some big ideas that you want to share. Also, to support the work of the fundraising team in particular, we hired Avram Lapan, who's a consultant to nonprofits, whose firm worked with us during the previous capital campaign. We want to determine what the congregation, what the capacity the congregation has for fundraising beyond the high holiday appeal and spring fundraiser, which are going to continue as always. To this end, Avram Lapan led 3 focus groups, 2 that included members from every aspect of the community and 1 for the board, to explore the kinds of fundraising initiatives that will reflect the rabbi's vision and will be transformative for SAJ. Avram will also conduct a feasibility study in the summer and the early fall, in which he'll reach out to a cross-section of volunteers in the community to shape our fundraising initiative. So, as I said, there are many opportunities for community engagement, and we hope that you will reach out to us to become involved in the 100th anniversary. Now we'll hear from Donna Katzen, who is going to provide an overview of a timeline for the next steps and how we're going to get all this done. So, Donna, unmute yourself.
Thank you for your incredible leadership, Janet, and everybody who was working on this. It's really quite a project and a lot of teamwork, wonderful teamwork. So just to give you an idea of what's going to happen when, it seems like a monster project, but in fact, there's some very real milestones, and they are beginning to come into focus. So as we build the awareness, the excitement, and participation of the congregation in this 100th anniversary, and as we coordinate the task forces so that everyone is working together toward the whole, we've established 3 basic milestones. The first one is the high holidays. Inconsiderately early this year, although we'll be happy when they come. September 6th is Rosh Hashanah, as people know, and by then we want to have compiled the basic framework for the activities and for the content of this 100th anniversary, the kinds of activities, the kinds of initiatives. This becomes more specific by the beginning of November, with the goal by the beginning of November of establishing specific activities, specific initiatives, and identifying what will happen by March 2022. So through the first 3 months of the year, we hope to be able to announce specific events that will be taking place. And then by March, to be able to roll out and announce to everyone what will happen by the end of the year. This may go faster or slightly slower than anticipated, but this is pretty much the rhythm that we are looking to keep, and hoping that this will build and that everyone in the synagogue, one way or another, will continue to build with your ideas, your participation, and your enthusiasm. So the big finale will be at the end of 2022 when that year ends, and we hope to celebrate a really magnificent community effort. Thanks to everybody, and be sure to call any of us if you are not already participating and want to add something to this process. We would love it.
Thank you, Donna. And now we'll hear from Abe.
All right, I've been tasked with the wrap-up job. And first of all, I want to say how grateful I am to have the opportunity to help lead this effort. By the time we're done, come 2023, our vision is we will have really come together as a community in a, I don't know whether it's new and different, but especially after this year of COVID, we will have joined together. We will have been in person. We will have gathered in larger numbers more often, probably than ever before in the memories of the people on this call. We will have engaged more new leadership, leading more activities. We will have projected our visibility throughout the city and the nation. We will have come together to unify behind the vision outlined by Rabbi Lauren, with the SAJ identified uniquely as a congregation committed to the intersection of social justice and spirituality. We have an incredible opportunity here. I think when this 100th year is over, we will be at a new and different place. There are many people I want to thank here. First, Rabbi Lauren has invested extraordinary leadership, first over the past few years in articulating the mission of the congregation going forward. And second, over the past 4 months, investing energy in making that mission real in the planning for this 100th anniversary celebration, and in thinking through the highlights of our past, the significance of our past, the moral and religious implications of our past, and how we can use that to springboard forward so that we can have as great an impact in the next 100 years as we did in the first 100. I want to thank the leadership of the task force committees. All of these leaders have already invested significant time and made a great commitment for even more work for the future. And it's an extraordinary group of people. I have already learned so much from my co-chair here, Donna Katzen, who is a wizard of communal process. And working with Donna on this is a brilliant experience. We have integrated some new leadership into the leadership of the committee. These committees, Michael Vermood, Aaron Feynman, and Dan Held, are newer leaders of the congregations. I haven't had a chance to work with any of them before. I'm really looking forward to it. We are amazingly grateful that Larry Budish is still willing to put in a significant leadership into the fundraising for the 100th. Larry led the fundraising campaign, the capital campaign. Whenever we walk into the building, the beauty of the building, the vibrancy of our programs are the manifestation of Larry and Joan's commitment to this congregation and their leadership into bringing us to where we are. And I can sleep at night knowing that Larry and Joan are with us on, on this effort. Alice, with events and initiatives, which requires, real knowledge of the congregation, relationships within the congregation, understanding of where we've been. It is impossible to imagine a stronger team than Allison Spitz and Nancy Ludmerer, who together, I think, know everything there is to know about the character of the congregation, the history of the congregation, the assets of the congregation. And we are in very good hands. I think that sums up where we've been. I want to thank the leadership. I want to thank all of you, because in the end, the success of this 100th year will be due to the commitment and the work and the participation of everyone who is on this call. We're going to have a great time. We're going to have a year of parties and celebrations, of learning and challenge. It's going to be awesome. And when we're done, what's going to happen is we're going to be ready for more learning and more challenge and more growth. So it's really exciting. I'll close with asking Rabbi Lauren to put up a save the date screen. You can see these are dates we already have. The kickoff Shabbat, a celebration of the music of the SAJ and Cantor Nathanson, the anniversary of the first bat mitzvah, the fall party, and Rabbi Lauren already gave us the date of the adult bar mitzvah for this year. There could be nothing more perfect for the 100th anniversary of the SAJ and the commemoration of the first bat mitzvah in the world than a high class of adult bar mitzvah working for a year with Rabbi Lauren and our amazing intern, Noah Rubin Blos. So I look forward to seeing you at all your events. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to do this amazing work.